You are listening to The Insider with Brian Lloyd. The opinions expressed are that of the individuals and can sometimes be of an adult nature.
On today's Insider podcast, we're talking to Michael Kinirons, writer of Strangerland. Michael, thanks for talking to us. Just to start off with, I mean, you know, obviously you're Irish, but the film is very much set in Australia, isn't it? I mean, like I've watched it, and the thing that kind of jumped out at me about it was that like geography really does kind of play a big role in that. I mean, when you were writing it, did you write it specifically for the Australian landscape, or was it a case of that it was just sort of a generic barren landscape, if you like?
No. Well, I suppose the project came to me is kind of a roundabout way, you know. So there was the director had developed, an Australian director came around to develop this script with an Australian writer called Fiona Serres, and they had been they tried to get it off the ground, and they had Kim had come up with the idea, and they developed to a certain point, but they could never really get it off the ground. So it kind of, as often these projects happen, it just loses momentum, and it kind of just nothing happens with it. And then Kim had met an Irish producer called MacDara Kelleher in Berlin, at the Berlin Film Festival, and kind of they got on, and she told him about the project, and he seemed, all right, that sounds interesting. And he and I had worked together a couple of times, and I'd worked for his company and blah blah, and he thought I'd be able to it sounded my sort of sensibility, or I'd be able to sort of do something with it. So it landed on my desk, and kind of I put it this way: he was able to raise a small amount of finance from the film board, and if he was able to raise any more, I wouldn't be doing it. Yeah. I was at that kind of perfect level for someone like me who was kind of just coming up, and it was essentially. But
like, you're saying you're coming up. Like, I mean, you're on the Brit List and everything like that.
Yeah,
you know, that sort of way. Like, I mean, you know, like, don't sell yourself short. Like, is what I'm saying.
But I went, you know, a good film school, and I'd been made shorts that had developed a certain amount. But at the same time, I was still, you know, I'm by no means. There's more experience and bigger name writers out there he could have gone to. But it was just, I think the feel and the tone of what the project could have been suited my stuff, and you know, he'd known from my shorts. So, and that thing of the land is a very or a sort of an invisible presence within the land is a kind of thing that's come through my work. So that's how it kind of came to me, and then I was able to sort of work with Kim then to sort of bring it to a different level or whatever, or just bring a different direction to it, and we were able to get it off the ground that way. So it's essentially then, so with this Australian project that Irish people have come on board and made it work. But
like, I mean, you know, working from somebody else's script, I mean, I suppose it's the sort of thing, I mean, how do you treat it? I mean, this is the sort of thing that, right, I've got the outline and then I'll just fill in my stuff. Do you try to be a bit more precious about it?
It's a process.
How's the process?
It sort of evolves itself naturally in terms of, first and foremost was I had to, you know, they have their own ideas of what they want to do with it, you know, and you listen to that obviously, and then you throw it away. But no, you listen to them and you go, okay, and then it's about building up a relationship with the director that they trust you to I suppose take it more and more your own in terms of the way you want it, and that's about developing those ideas with the director, and for me, I suppose I had quite a strong vision of where I thought it could go, and then so it's about just slowly breaking them down, convince that's the way to do it. But I think it was just, I think it needed a bit of an outsider's perspective. That's what it was sort of crying out for, that someone who could say Australians are, in some ways, they're
quite close, but not closed up, but they're quite clannish, aren't they? I mean, like, the sort of thing that they kind of like, you know, they work amongst themselves, like Peter Weir and all that kind of thing. Like, he works with like an Australian crew and so on and so forth. Like, I mean, was that kind of it? Like, you coming in as an outsider? Like, I mean,
I think in fairness, I suppose Kim was open enough to that process of, I think it was good. It was the kind of a last chance saloon with the project anyway. It was kind of like it was a shot in the dark for everybody. Either I kind of did something with it, or it was going to just sort of fall apart again. So she was willing to kind of go, okay, well, this is a bit of momentum again. Let's go with it. But it was definitely, it was touching on, you know, it's a story about kids going missing in the outback, and it's a really primal Australian story.
Yeah.
And you mentioned Peter Weir, so things like Picnic Hanging Rock were definitely echoes, but it was echoing these things, but really wasn't maybe following through, because
If you follow it too far, it becomes an homage sort of thing. Is
well,
that it?
there's that, but also that there's certain subject matter in Australian culture that they're still extremely so sensitive about, that they're there but they're not there. They're kind of invisible, and so like there was this kind of picking hang rock feeling, and this has a Aboriginal kind of cosmology that's reliant on it, but there was no Aboriginal voice in it. There was no Indigenous characters. So that was the first thing I was like, well, you have to have something. It can't be just
all white people. Of course,
and not giving them a voice. So that was part of that, and then you start going into the layers of that and going, what does that mean? And also then, if you have kids going missing and stuff, you have to have some sort of more of a mystery thriller kind of element to it. So I brought more of a genre kind of perspective to it, and building this kind of tension of what's going to happen to them, and giving it a kind of a ticking clock of a few days. So telescoping that kind of action into a few days, so you're going, okay, that looming deadline, if
it's constantly hanging over them. And in fairness as well, like, I mean, that kind of, I think that really fed into the visual aspect of it as well, like the whole thing with the the sun is always kind of present in it. I mean, again, and the film, it really does strike me as one of those like really, really visual films. That it's really just all about the look and the texture of it and so on and so forth. I mean, when you were, I suppose, rewriting the script, or however the process was, I mean, do you specifically write that into the script as in like, it's got a big huge dirty sun, that sort of thing, like, that sort of way, like,
amazing, exactly how I described it.
Did you really? Big dirty sun? I knew it. But you know what I mean, like, do you put those descriptors in, or is it a case of you leave it blank for the director to kind of pour it in, or does it meet somewhere in the middle?
It sort of meets somewhere. I mean, I think I very much put the sun was because it has a narrative sort of purpose. You're reminding the audience,
they're on a time limit.
They're on a time limit. And literally things are getting hotter. So that's part of it. I think because my background is training as a director, that I kind of tend to think that way anyway.
Yeah.
And I sort of appreciate the nature, I suppose, of, I'm always trying to pull out one of the things with Irish film or Irish writers, a tendency, because they write both. Maybe they tend to write screenplays and plays. And they tend to be a little bit more
visually astute, as well, or something.
And there's a lot of language, and I'm very much pulling out the language, and let's try and do it visually. And so there's a kind of, and then you hope that you hope it's kind of in the fabric of the script, so that the cinematographer and the director of the visual, they can bring it out. Then right, this is a motif. This is something we're going to use, and the widescreen landscape, and I think that we all have a kind of, there's something very familiar about we've seen a lot of outback. We know there's certain, I suppose, areas in the world and the planet that have a kind of visual language about them ourselves. Project onto them. So that's what, the American West or whatever is another one, or whatever. There's something about the Australian outback that's intriguing, and it has this kind of presence, but that's because of the Indigenous people and the relationship they have with the land, so you can get away with things there that you wouldn't be able to get away with anywhere else.
Of course,
down in Leixlip or somewhere,
Hey, I'm from Clyne, so
okay, right.
But I mean, like, just to kind of touch on that, you were saying that you have an outsider's perspective on it and so on and so forth, and I was just wondering, because the one again, like that sort of oppressiveness of the desert and the outback and so on and so forth. I mean, how did you write that? I mean, was it a sort of thing that, like, did you do any research? Like, did you meet with Aboriginal leaders? I mean, how did that all work?
Absolutely, yeah. Well, it's kind of, the majority of the writing actually took place just around the corner from this building.
Really?
But I lived in Ormond Key,
it's like an outback out there. You don't even know.
So you don't understand everything, really.
God, Jesus, I see it now.
Literally, just looking over the Liffey there. But I suppose there is a sense of, because you have that familiarity through cinema,
films,
and through some of I was a massive Peter Weir fan. Did you have a sort of a sense of what it could be, but even like looking, your Lawrence of Arabia, those kind of things. You have a sense of what it could be. But I think the more important thing is then you have it's researching the history, and understanding that the history of Australia as the history of white settlers on a land that they have no right to, and feel anxiety because of that, and the relationship with the Indigenous people is so,
it's warped.
It's so warped, and they are not even almost aware of it, And when you go there, it's so evident, particularly to Irish people, because of a similar
Yeah.
colonial history, and
Yeah.
our history is bound up in their history as well. So
Yeah.
that allowed me a sort of a certain freedom to
Yeah.
to say things or do things or explore things. And then we worked with local leaders. The hilariously, you know, the tribal elder where we end up shooting around Broken Hill is a guy called Badger Bates, who literally, like, you know, could be, it sounds like a mate of mine who grew up in Mullingar, you know.
Yeah, totally, yeah.
Badger was like totally sound, and it's just, so yeah, but you get that it just gives you a permission, and you get a strong sense of the community and how they work and their relationship with the land, and through that process you're peeling back layers all the time.
Yeah.
And it does, you realize that, I mean, that's very much a very strong part of the film, is that feeling of the white Anglo-Saxon settler, the anxiety they have and the feelings they have towards the space they live, and it's hostile, and they don't understand
very
it,
much so,
and that's why they stick to the ocean and the, you know, the coast.
Yeah,
nobody lives in the interior because they don't understand it, and they feel guilty about it. So I think that sort of perspective, an Irish person can kind of really click into
yeah,
that
definitely,
very quickly, and so maybe that's why, and we'll get Irish audiences will get something out of it. Maybe other audiences won't because of that as well. So yeah, so we're trying to do that, but also then fulfill, like, have a tense experience as well as just as a drama and as a thriller or whatever. So that was the balance, trying to get all those things, get those layers, but not have them so
oppressive,
aggressive that, you know, that you're just turning people off either, and it becomes too kind of art housey or too anything. So that's the tricky bit, and, you know, and whether you get that balance or not is it's
up to the audiences, I suppose, isn't it? But, like, you mentioned there about, you know, like, genre films and so on and so forth, like, and kind of working within that. I mean, just as I was saying to you before we started, like, we had John Crowley and I was talking to him about his work on True Detective, and he said that, like, genre really just doesn't interest him at all. Like, and, you know, as I was watching Strangerland, and, you know, you said this yourself, like, there was, like, a few different things, like, there was a bit of a noir kind of thriller thing going on, there was a bit of sort of, you know, ethereal Peter Weir picnic at Hanging Rock kind of vibe going on. So I suppose my question is that, like, I mean, do you find the construct, you know, working in a genre, I mean, do you find that oppressive? Do you find that kind of restrictive, or is this sort of thing that you can subvert it or you can work within it? Like,
I think it's interesting to there's an interesting framework you work in. I suppose put it this way, I think audiences now, everyone's so savvy in terms of narrative and dramatic beats and what to expect. So what's interesting is to work within a somewhat familiar kind of terrain and try and subvert it and try and be a little bit unpredictable. What this story allowed is that the unpredictability, I suppose, comes out of the unpredictable nature of characters and people themselves, and the messiness of a crisis. What happens when the shit hits the fan, and really it's massive life and death, and you have to confront all of your own estrangement to your partner or to yourself, to your kids, to your community, and all those things that, you know, the whole thing is about being a stranger to all those things, you know, and how what you repress, what you don't confront will come back and haunt you in a certain way. So that's where the messiness of real life, I suppose, was interesting. That's what I'd be quite interested in. But I want to do that in a format that I feel like there's just dramatic tension, but you're giving the audience something that it's not purely navel gazing. You know, and, you know, and within a film like this, it's tricky, you know, because you have an experience from the insiders, the people who are trying to find their kids but, you know, you can't. There's only so much you can search. There's only so much you can do. The cops are all active.
You're just a passenger on it.
There's an inevitable stasis within that sort of structure, because, and that's when we talk to people who's, you know, lost loved ones and who've never been found, and that feeling of
helplessness
and you're stuck to the house, and you're just stuck to the phone call, or you're stuck to, you know what I mean, that you have to be true to that. You can't just go, hey, unless, you know, and I think something like Prisoners did a very good Hollywood version of that by going, let's have the kind of veil of paedophile kind of guy, and it's about, you know, and then you've got a real sort of smash that you can go through, and that's an interesting way to go, and it worked, certainly I thought it worked quite well. But this is slightly different, or it's more about, you know, say those layers of tension between individuals and their
Between
communities.
Joseph Fiennes and Nicole Kidman.
And them and the community with the Aboriginal community and those kind of and you know the cop and you know the person they're trying to help and those kind of that's where the interesting maybe layers were for us, what I was trying to unpick a bit. So that's stuff. But yeah, in terms of genre overall, I think it's interesting to a couple of projects I'm working on at the moment they all have a kind of an angle on genre. I'm not a straight genre person anyway. My idea, I have zero interest in zombies, for example, right? I don't. But I totally respect people who do. I totally understand it. Totally people who want to, and the parades and everything. I'm into it. Do it. Do I find it stimulating in any way, or do I'm just, no? But like, I'll watch a Polanski horror, or I'll watch that kind of claustrophobic horror, because I think that I'm into sort of the psychology of it. So that's where I'm kind of, I like those kind of that are sort of their angle on it, you know. Maybe not going straight down the line, but it's just personal tasting, you know. Of course, and that's all you have to do. But it's very hard nowadays with cinema to avoid genre completely, because
it is. I mean, it's just so kind of like delineated by, you know, that's an action film, that's a blockbuster, that's a thriller, that's a drama,
and even films that try to pretend they're not genre films
come off even worse.
I mean, like, you know, there's the festival film now is a genre film, you know. Let's go try and make a film for Sundance as a genre film, you know.
But your film wasn't Sundance.
I know, exactly. But there's definitely Sundance films. There's definitely Cannes films. They are they're their own thing, and they're almost their own genre by trying not to be genre films. So I think for me, it's just like, I want, you know, cinema has to be something. It has to. I think there's still a special place for cinema in terms of people going in to a room together that's dark and experiencing something primal. That's your that are deeper, darker kind of instincts. I still think there's room for that. That's almost nothing to do with storytelling. That's more of something a deeper need, and that's what I'm kind of interested in.
Yeah, but I mean, like, I don't know, like, I mean, and I say this as somebody that works for a TV movie website and stuff, but like, I suppose my point is that, like, you know, it's just a delivery method. Do you know, that sort of way? I mean, you yourself, I mean, like, you've primarily done shorts, and this is your first kind of debut film. I mean, has a long form story like TV, I mean, does that interest you at all? I mean, or is it a case of it's, you know, you like the kind of compactness of one film?
I suppose, I'm a little bit old fashioned in terms of I do think cinema has a function outside of just pure narrative storytelling. I think there is something different, and I think it goes deep within us, and that's why I think it will always exist. I think there's two sides of film. There's one is spectacle. It was, you know, and this goes back to Méliès. You know, we want to see big stuff. We want to see, you know,
the train going off the bridge and blah,
and we
blah,
want
blah.
to see action, and that's fine, and that will always be there, and I love that side of it. But there will always be something about the nature of cinema, which is about subjectivity, about experiencing life in a certain way, and then there'll always be something about this thing about it's like the Hitchcock or the primal fear thing that we can only do by getting together in a room and doing it's Plato's cave kind of. I don't want to get too obnoxious about it.
But I know what you're saying.
But the long form then allows you to do so much more in terms of character. But this is why, you know, David Lynch is one of the few people who could maybe, you know, he
transition between the two,
you know, and he can do pure, like, his stuff is just so cinematic because it is like some bizarre dark nightmare, you know. But then, you know, something like Twin Peaks, which does work, and he's able to translate those things. So yeah, I would love to do something long form. Difficult in Ireland though. It's just so tricky. It's just so tricky because, you know, we all know why.
It's just we all know why. But actually, funny now. I mean, on that, I mean, you know, do you see yourself staying in Ireland? I mean, this is the sort of thing, because, like, you know, your first film was set in Australia. I mean, do you feel yourself tied to the Irish community, or is it a case of like, no, I'm gonna have to leave if I want to get anywhere?
I think I think bizarrely, I've always thought internationally. I've always looked. I mean, I've worked with, you know, I've got a project with a French guy. I'm working with a Danish company at the moment about 2 Danish Arctic explorers who get lost in Arctic Greenland in 1906, and they have to survive the polar winter together, kind of mad with each other. So no, but yes, and the answer is I want to be an Irish filmmaker. I always want to be considered an Irish filmmaker. I think Neil Jordan did,
He
Jim Jordan did this kind of, but I think they all went a little bit more American, if you want to say. I think Lenny's a great the template. I've always respected Lenny in terms of he's got a strong
background in Ireland. Yeah,
he's a
his
voice.
roots. Yeah,
His
he
roots
is.
are in
Yeah,
Ireland, and he will always, and he'll do other films internationally, but he will always come back and make films in Ireland. I can guarantee you, he will come back every so often and make a film in Ireland. And he's based in Ireland, and that's for me what I'd like to do as well. I'd like to make films in here, and my first feature that hopefully, I've literally just finished writing. I've got a co-writing partner on it, and that's hopefully will go later this year, early next year. Hopefully, we'll see. But it's very much an Irish film about, it's could take place anywhere, but it
has a Irish frame to it. Yeah,
as an Irish, well, it's very strong in terms of it's still about, it's in some level. I'll brief. It's just about.
Go on, go on.
It's briefly about a kind of wealthy woman who works in corporate business here, who's grieving the death of her son. And who's died in mysterious circumstances, and she gets essentially conned when she's in an emotional state by a young couple, and it's about her exacting a very twisted revenge on that. So, but essentially, it's about the generations. The generation who did really well out of the boom, and the generation who kind of grew up in the boom, and now who's
on who,
the exploitation of those kind of two generations, and so that's the underneath fabric of it. But it still could take place anywhere in a certain sense. So I'm interested in being here. The difficulty is
funding.
Well, funding, how to have creating a life here in terms of being able to do it. Like, as I say, I live down in West Cork because at some stage you're going, I can have the space to write. I can have a house. I can rent a house down there for
next to nothing. Of
what I was paying up here, and that's the thing. And this is me even starting to make a bit of money in it. It just takes a long time, and you have to be committed to that. And you have to, I suppose you have to know what kind of filmmaker you are. Like, if you want to, I totally understand if you're Kieran Foy. Go
do Sinister too.
Go to Hollywood and make it, because he's always wanted to make those films, and there's no point in making those films here because you're not, he's too good a filmmaker to do that.
Definitely.
For me, it was just, I'm interested in, I was always kind of looking more towards Europe anyway. Or world cinema or whatever else, but still I want to, so I'm not going to be jumping to Hollywood, but I want to make interesting films and I want to have an audience. So that's so
the reality of it. The
reality is that you have to go, okay, work with whoever you can work with, and try and develop your own talent and all the rest, and then hopefully that you can make some small films here as well and build up and get a decent reputation and get an audience, and I think that's possible. I think there's a lot of talk about how we're great, self-congratulatory stuff about the Irish film industry, and it's good, and it is good, and it's definitely and as I say, John Crowley and Lenny are really, really great film. I've nothing but respect for them, and they've done great things. But they've done it despite. I always kind of think that's it. I think it's, the two of them have done well despite what's going on. Well, I think I would agree, and I think they also got their breaks in, when the film board had Simon Perry, and it was very director led, and it was a different. And now I think the film board have done brilliantly for, with a slash budget, and but the priorities definitely are different. And we like to talk a good game about developing Indigenous talent and all that stuff. Is it true? I wouldn't really. I'd be diplomatic, and I would say maybe. I think there's, but it's very tricky. I'd say, people who I went to film school with in London, and different. If I was in Germany or if I was in Denmark, I would have made a couple of features by now, definitely. Yeah, definitely. Or I'd have made TV. I would have. And the big issue, I would say, for us, the film board are doing a great job with limited resources. The problem, I would say, is that there's just, you make your shorts, you go to film school, and then what? If in Ireland, because there's no TV, really. Unless you go work for like Fair City or something. Well, it's Fair City, or Red Rock now, I suppose. Yeah, and even then, I mean, as a director. What are you doing really? Like, you're just kind of like, traffic warden. That's not directing. It's not. To be honest with you, it's movable coverage, and to be honest, anyone can do it, and it probably won't stand you in any good stead in terms of your reputation. Honest. And that's nothing against either of those things, but it's not why you became a filmmaker. Of course not. the tricky things like things like Love Hate, one director, and they tend to work with the same people. Like I've watched Rebellion. I think it's
yeah. What do you make of it actually? Yeah,
I think it's funny because I've written a 1916 thing and it's a very different type of approach, and I know the history really well, and I think what they've done is interesting in terms of it's taking the perspective of three women, and that's interesting. But I think the sort of premise falls foul after a while because you start ending up a little bit like there's just long scenes that could be Downton Abbey. Yeah, there could be just it's period drama, Sunday night period drama with talking about some English undersecretary's affair with
such and such,
and it's like you're missing great swathes of massive amounts of really interesting stuff. But the biggest travesty there is that there's a Finnish guy directing it, and I'm sorry, you're telling me there's nobody in Ireland that can direct that series? Like it's not so amazingly directed that like it's very competent.
Yeah, it's very competent, but like I mean,
and I think that's a really disheartening thing for Irish filmmakers coming up, going, well, what if we can't? Where do you go? That's the thing.
Yeah.
So that for me is that makes my blood boil. Because you go, I don't believe this whole thing of we're all about like engaging with Irish talent and ours. But it's not really true, and really what it seems to be about is let's get lots of American projects over here. Let's get everyone out. Let's give them our cultural resources.
Yeah, let's get them out. You have a problem with Skellig Michael, do you?
I haven't. Listen, I thought Star Wars was great. I enjoyed the scenes.
No, because I mean, like, look, I mean, I've had a few people on, and like the topic of Skellig Michael has come up, and I personally myself, I don't have a problem with it. I think they were very respectful. I think they had enough. I mean, from what I understand, they had half the OPW down there watching them at every point in time, and it's a boost to local economy. Blah 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 blah.
Exactly.
So I don't see a problem with it. I really don't see a problem with it.
And I think what will happen out of that as well is that, like, I know there's this road somewhere in the north which Game of Thrones was a lot of things.
That's the one with the trees, isn't it? Yeah.
Tourists flock to it.
Yeah.
Tourists going to flock to that. So yes, it's great for and hopefully all boats rise.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
But that's the point: is do they? And I think that's the thing, frustrating thing for a lot of the younger generation of filmmakers is just that you don't see if your crew or if you're a spark or if great for you. But
they're going to work. Forget about it.
Editors, cinematographers starting to move through.
Yeah.
But really, it's not really filtering down.
Well, I don't know, like it's not even, to be honest, I don't think it's something that's kind of specific just to filmmakers or writers or anything. I mean, the same goes for musicians as well. Like, I mean, like, literally pick any Irish artist of the last 5 years, and like most of them made their money and their kind of career when they were outside the country, that sort of way.
Yeah.
So it's I don't know. I mean, is it something like maybe creativity or something like that? Creative kind of roles aren't bolstered. Because I mean, like yeah, absolutely, you're right. Like sparks and fitters and whatever, all the technical.
It doesn't mean you've got really good technical crew here for a certain type of thing, which is great. But then they're getting a lot of work. They're getting used to working for certain rates, and then it's really hard to get them for the
for your thing.
And then if you're trying to get them working night shooter, and forget about it. But I do think there needs to be a streamlining of industry between film school, TV station, film board, these kind of all the good sort of systems. There is that streamline where you go, the talent is brought through, and it doesn't mean that it's exclusive to those brought through from different angles as well. But there's a kind of where people build up relationships, and that and then you see that's why they end up with Ed and Lenny met in college, and they worked up through that. But that has to be bolstered, and I think that could, better things could happen in that way. Is it the same? That's not to say that I think in Ireland we definitely are very used to and very happy to begrudge and whinge and do nothing. You have to take personal responsibility and get yourself make yourself better as well, and train as best you can. There's loads of international training. There's loads of ways, and if it's not working for here, go somewhere else.
Definitely.
It's not saying that isn't that isn't important too, but there could be more opportunity, and we should
definitely
just, slap our backs at these moments and go, hey,
are we great?
And what you're relying on is the odd flash of
Flash in the pan sort of thing.
Well, individual genius to pop along every so often and go, hey, here I am.
Yeah.
And then everyone else has forgotten because particularly the thing with directing, there's a learnable craft to it, element to it, and there's a thing of you have to be doing it. And the worst thing is when you spend ages developing projects and all the rest, and you finally get to make your feature, and you have to shoot in 4 weeks, and you haven't shot anything in 3 years, and it takes you a week and a half to even get used to the idea.
Yeah. Just work on a camera
you
and
just
like,
go, what does this do again? You know what I mean? Or it takes a while to get up to speed, and that's the tricky thing that we're not allowing people have a chance to build those kind of and make 2 or 3 films. So I think that could be definitely improved.
There we go. Okay, Michael Kinirons, I'm going to leave it there. Thanks very much.